You can't be afraid of failure. Think of prehistoric humans and like ancient humans or like cavemen, right? Think of how they would learn something, anything. Let's just say how to climb a tree, right? They would probably try like 58 times and have no idea what they're doing. And then each time they're like, okay, so if I do this, I can do this. And if I do this, then that happens. And right? You try things until you fail, or you try things and fail until you learn, right? Is how basically everything works. So the fear of failure, in turn, creates the fear of learning in some ways, right? So being afraid of failure is just for the weak, right? You can't really say that you're disciplined and that you're a strong masculine man if you're afraid of failing, right? Because it just doesn't work. But there's this quote from Albert Einstein, like the genius that had a crazy IQ, and he said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stick with problems longer," right? What does that mean? It means he failed a bunch of times. Maybe he didn't fail, but he didn't have any success for a long time on a certain problem, which I don't even know what he did, like theory of relativity or whatever, with like the cloth and, okay, I'm not even gonna nerd out right now, but yeah. You should be like Einstein in more of the things you do, right? Like, failure is something to achieve. You know, I made a video way long ago about achieving failure, and I don't even remember what it was about because it was like in November of 2023, so yeah. But if you're afraid of failure, you're not gonna go anywhere in life. You're not. You're just gonna live like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 life. That's it. If you want to live a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10 life, you have to fail and then learn from the failure. You can't, just a quick side note, you can't just fail and then fail and then fail and then fail without trying to learn, right? And if you fail something once and then go to something else, that's also not really going to work, right? That's like trying to run a 5K, never having ran before, and they're like, oh, I guess I'm not a runner because you can run like a sub 20, right? It doesn't make any sense. So, back to the Einstein quote, I'm not that smart. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I solve problems longer. This insinuates that he failed and had to stick with it, and he failed over and over and over and over again until he finally got the result, right? Are you failing and then going and failing again? I think it was Thomas Edison who made the light bulb or whatever, and how hard do you think he had to try? How many failed attempts do you think he had? And yeah, so the Stoics, which if you watch my videos, you know that I'm into Stoicism. The Stoics had a lot of practices which kind of just like destroyed the fear of failure, or like circumvented it, or like went around it, right? So, to name a few, focusing on the input, because a lot of the time, the output is not going to be what you want. So if you just focus on the input, you're going to have a whole of a lot better time, right? Like if I was expecting to get 10,000 views from this video, and I didn't, I'm like, oh, well, I guess YouTube's not for me. No, it's stupid. Focus on the input. The input for YouTube is me pressing record and uploading, right? So another thing that Stoics do is that they reframe not just failure, but like a lot of things as an opportunity so like, let me think. They would view like somebody trash talking them, right? I don't think that's what they called it back then, but like trying to break them down, kind of, and they view that as an opportunity to test like their resolve, right? So yesterday, actually, as I said in a couple of videos ago, or maybe like, I don't remember when, but I come from a very like angry background. I get the anger from my dad. It's just genetic, but you know, I know there's a version of me, maybe even like 6 months ago, that would have just absolutely lost my shit yesterday, right? Because this little piece of you know what would not stop yapping his mouth at practice. And you know, I mean, I felt the anger, right? I felt like the dark thoughts that a lot of men get. Like, speaking of that, you don't want to like mute the dark thoughts, right? Like the dark thoughts you get, you want to implement them into something else. Like if somebody shit talks you and then the thought just pops in your head, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking kill him," or some bullshit like that, you want to integrate that into other stuff. You don't want to just like push it down, because that's not good, obviously. So if you kind of use that energy in things you do, like I felt, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna beat his ass, whatever. Obviously I didn't. Don't act on the dark thoughts, because that's just like psychopathic, I don't know how to say it. But kind of just bask in them, right? Let the emotions go through you, because if you just stuff them down, they're gonna come back up. That's my theory of what happens to like the people that shoot up schools, right? So back to the fear of failure. Oh yeah, and I didn't even finish my story. But yeah, there was a version of me that would get super angry, but I simply didn't. I chose to ignore it, right? I didn't retaliate, because I know if I retaliated, I would turn it into a competition and I would get in my own head, right? But I chose to just not worry about it, to understand that he's the asshole, right? And a lot of the criticism and like trash talk had no merit, right? Like, I'm not even gonna get too deep into it, because I might, get pissed off again. But my last point about why transcending the fear of failure is such an importance is because no doubt at all, you'll achieve a lot more, right? Because you're not afraid of trying, which is kind of why a lot of people don't like try, because they don't want to fail, right? Trying and failing kind of go hand in hand, right? Trying 1,000 times and failing 999 times is still seen as a success. That's something about, I'm not even gonna get into that actually, but some examples of being afraid of failure and how transcending it could give you a huge benefit. Like you see this beautiful girl walking down the street, and there's two versions of you, right? One version goes up and talks to her. One version walks past and copes and tells himself that it's not a big deal, that girls aren't even really important, right? And the version of you that goes up to her, that could be your future wife, bro, and you just don't know it. So yeah, that's one example. Trying a PR in the gym, like on bench, like if you just failed it, trying again, obviously with the spotter. I don't feel like I should have to mention that, but and The most successful people have failed so many more times than people who are afraid of failure have even tried. So I've got some action step examples, so like how you can just not be afraid of failure in your real life. So try a new way of cooking your meal, try like different seasonings or whatnot. Cold approaching a girl, obviously, I already gave the example. And trying to talk to somebody you admire, right? Like somebody that you think that has qualities that you like, just go up and talk to them, right? What's the worst that could happen? They ignore you? Oh well, you'll both forget about it in a day. So always remember, pain in the moment is growth in the long run. See ya.